My name is Ainsley Parkinson. I am joined with my colleague, Marisol Jimenez. We would like to welcome you to our session today. Thank you for coming. We represent the Instructional Support Services program at Lehman College. Before we begin, how many of you are in Learning Center Administration? If you are, please type your yes in the chat. If you are not,
We're glad to see you, even if you're not in Learning Center Administration. But I do recognize some colleagues from Lehman, so welcome and welcome to all of you. Go ahead, Dr. Parkinson.
whether you are in learning centers or not, we hope that by sharing how we have structured our online tutoring, you gain ideas of how to create interactive online learning spaces. The ISSP is a CRLA certified program and is composed of two tutoring centers. The Lehman Tutoring Center, where we offer tutoring in writing, the humanities, social sciences, as well as academic coaching on study skills and peer-led group review through supplementary instruction or SI. And the Science Learning Center, where we offer tutoring in the natural sciences. Since March of 2020, all of our services are offered online through Blackboard and through Blackboard web conference feature, Blackboard Collaborate. When we had to transition to delivering online services, we knew we wanted to duplicate some of the practices that characterize our face-to-face program, because these practices have informed the way we structure and evaluate our program, the innovation we are willing to undertake, and the training we provide to our staff and tutors. We also wanted to be able to deliver both schedule and drop-in services to see students who need immediate help. We also have to run two centers where there is a lot of interaction between students and staff and between colleagues. And we wanted to recreate that online. We did not want an environment where everyone will tutor in their own space with little connection to others. Another consideration is we needed a centralized space to facilitate data collection, because we report on how much time students spent in our tutoring and how it impact our program as a whole. We felt data could be lost if they had to rely on tutors sharing data of online tutoring held in their own online space. Here is the structure of our academic support services. As I've shared, we wanted to use a technology for online support that would complement what students were using in their own courses and for which the college would offer technical support. Since Blackboard is a university learning management system, we felt faculty would use that for online classes, and how we're using it for tutoring will make it easier for students to access our services. We also knew we wanted a platform that could offer multiple visual spaces to host a large number of students. So we create two Blackboard courses for our centers. Within each course, there are Blackboard Collaborate session created, one for a main reception room and then session rooms for each tutor. Thus, tutor's room is identified with a unique URL that can be shared with students needed help in a specific subject area. The main rooms are intended to serve as a central office and space where students and tutors are always able to reach staff. Within the main room, there are breakout rooms. One breakout room is for staff to meet as needed during the day with each other or with students. Other breakout rooms are created throughout the day to put in waiting students. Breakout rooms in general have their own private audio, video. Also, there's whiteboard, but also there are application sharing and chat. A full-time or part-time staff, administrative staff, is always logged on to manage students' traffic in and out our centers. They have scripts that can use to quickly copy and paste answers to students' requests and questions when they come into the virtual waiting room.
And I'd like to interrupt Dr. Parkinson for a second to thank our IT staff, because we had, I think, an hour-long training session with our Blackboard administrator in March, the week before we went offline. And it was really at that session and a second session that he held on using Microsoft Teams that we figured out how to develop the structure. And at the time, there really wasn't a blueprint for what was really important to us, which was to have live help for students and to have a place where they could go in, talk to someone, and get help immediately without having to wait. We didn't have a chat feature, but we really thought that given the volume of students that we saw through walk-ins, that we needed to be live immediately. And this system is something that we were able to implement and that we have carried through since the college reopened. Our college took a pause I think a week or a few weeks after we reopened, and we did not need to take the pause because the system worked so well. So Dr. Parkinson, I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
Okay. So this is an example of a script our front desk staff kept prepared to be able to quickly answer questions for students when they come into the waiting room. This is also kept on a Microsoft Teams site. Given our goals, the first center I will describe is our drop-in center for tutoring for the natural sciences courses. Students drop in our virtual center on Blackboard Collaborate in a role of participant. As I mentioned in the previous slide, they have the ability to chat to tell us what they need, but they can also be given permission to talk if their role in the room has changed. Through chat, they are given a link to see a tutor. Students are given access to the schedule for tutoring on our website and via email sent to all students at the start of the term and as changes are made in the schedule. And in general, usually for me, what I tend to do also is send the students for specific subject areas. I would send them the schedule as well during the semester when we know that they have an exam is coming around, just to remind them.
And I wanted to add, some people say, why wouldn't you make them have a role where they can speak immediately when they enter the room? Sometimes people are sharing confidential information, so we thought it was best to have them come in as a participant and then upgrade their permission level once we knew what was their need and as we move them into a separate breakout room so we can preserve privacy. And this also allows us to deal with 4 or 5 people who are coming in at the same time, because that is what tends to happen in our face-to-face centers, and we wanted to continue to do that online. We didn't want to have to serve people in a serial manner. We wanted to have parallel service. Thank you.
Our second center is primarily an appointment-based center. Students drop into the virtual center on Blackboard Collaborate to request an appointment for a later date, but they can also fill out a form available on the website. They can also just request immediate help, which is available on the first come, first serve basis. This is an example of the welcome students see when they log on to the Science Learning Center waiting room. This allows us to have students prepared to speak with us if there are multiple people when they log on and they have to wait. This is a snapshot of the welcome message students see when they log into the Lehman Tutoring Center. The message for each center are similar. Because we knew we would need to reach students in multiple ways, we developed 2 videos faculty can use to inform students about our services. Here is a brief video about our academic coaching services. Information about this video was shared with all faculty in a letter through our faculty listserv, including a link to a Dropbox folder in which it is housed. We developed both this video and a more general video about all our services and a list of questions faculty might ask students to check their understanding of our services. We invited them to embed both the video and the question on their Blackboard courses site.
Dr. Parkinson, do you want to play the video or would you like me to play the video?
You could play the video. Thank you.
Give me 1 second, everybody, while we bring it up. So while we've learned about technology, it's still a little bit cumbersome sometimes to navigate how to make all these changes. So let's see.
Get a head start on academic success with academic coaching. Academic coaching is rooted in the development of a proactive relationship between a student and a coach who provides the student with structure, support, and feedback to reach their goals. Current research suggests that academic coaching has a positive impact on persistence and graduation, and it can enhance the college experience for students by leading to both academic and professional success. Academic coaching is not tutoring. While tutors typically help students with the content of a particular subject, academic coaches focus on helping students with study skills and strategies applicable to a variety of subjects. Some of the areas that are focused on during coaching sessions are time management, goal setting, motivation, planning, organization, study strategies such as reading, note-taking, test preparation, and test-taking, critical thinking, campus resources, and more. Whether you are an experienced online learner or taking online classes for the first time, our coaches will help you with communication practices that will allow you to effectively correspond with course requirements and stay in touch with your peers, and online learning strategies that will allow you to make the most of your online courses. Our coaching program is designed to help and benefit any student at any point in college. Whether you are a new first-year or transfer student, or a current non-traditional student, or even an A student who wants to get the most out of their college experience, our coaches will meet you where you are. Students have the option of scheduling one-time or consecutive weekly coaching sessions. If you request a weekly appointment, you can terminate your appointment at any time during the semester once you feel you have been helped. However, research shows that a minimum of 3 consecutive sessions are needed for students to see the impact of coaching, and the most impact is seen on students who have had 5 or more sessions. Our academic coaches are high-achieving current students who have been where you are. All coaches participate in regular staff development and training. Students can apply for academic coaching by completing the appointment request form, which can be found on the ISSP's webpage. Schedule an appointment with an academic coach now to find out how to succeed in college.
And I want to stress that this is a resource that we really wanted faculty members to be able to embed in their Blackboard course sites. We felt that it would be the most effective if this was a resource that they could use at any time and that they could have students use on their own. So that's why it was developed as a video that faculty would show rather than as a video that students would see on their own, so they can certainly do that. Thank you, Dr. Parkinson.
Okay, to continue, an additional thing we did while we were online was to actually use our technology fee to purchase student access to NetTutor. NetTutor is a national tutoring service that we offer students as an app in our college sign-on on student portal through the Lehman 360.
Dr. Parkinson, do you want to resume screen sharing? And as he screen shares our presentation, I want to add a little bit more about the structure of our program and why we made some of the decisions that we did about moving our tutoring services online. One of the things that was important to us was to continue to promote active learning, and we wanted that to happen in virtual space. And we promote active learning because in general, it leads to increased learning, and that in turn leads to increased student motivation, and that increases their commitment to persisting in college. So one of the limitations of meeting this goal that I found on Blackboard Collaborate, though, is that the platform could allow for more interaction. For example, if you work with Zoom, you know that users can take turns taking control of the screen. On Blackboard Collaborate, that doesn't really happen. So one of the things that we've done to promote active learning is to have the tutors make sure that they coach students in a first session through how to not only screen share, but also how they can share Microsoft 365 documents, which they all have access to, or Google Docs if they're using that. And we also encourage them to use questions actively in their sessions. And we'll share next how we try to inform them about how to instill in them the importance of using active learning strategies. So, and we try to model that in our trainings with them. If we can look at the next slide, it outlines a little bit about what are some of our goals. In general, when we're training tutors, we want to help model effective facilitation skills. And we're trying to do this both if they are face-to-face or if they're online. We want there to be opportunities for interactive and collaborative learning. We want there to be opportunities for reflection. And we also want to design experiences that are informed by what we know from cognitive science about how we learn. So all of that were considerations that we had in mind as we were developing these virtual tutoring spaces. If we can look at the next slide, it shows a little bit of a glimpse about what our Blackboard course site for tutors look like. We really meant this to be a place where tutors could go and find information that they could have easily gotten from our main tutoring space on campus. So there were forms and resources that they could use during their sessions. We've now housed those on Blackboard Collaborate. We've also made a discussion board, which I have to admit we haven't kept that up as much, but the resource materials and the announcement features are some things that we have used consistently throughout the year. And if we can look at the next slide, what you'll see is that in addition to using the campus resources, we've also created a Google Drive in which we house materials for training. And that's because our workshops tend to be interactive when they're face-to-face, and we give out exercises. And we really struggle with, well, how would we do that when we're all in our separate space? We didn't want to have trainings where we were just going to show up and talk to someone and not model the kind of interactivity that's possible online. So we created 2 online manuals, one for our instructors and one for our tutors. And these manuals outline for tutors when they first come to training, how our training days will progress and what are the expectations. It also gives them information about where they will meet. If we can take a look at the next slide, again, this is an excerpt from our training manual. It basically outlines for different staff members where they'll be. As we mentioned at the beginning, we are a nationally certified tutor training program. And so we tutor tutors at different levels. So at the beginning of the term in August and in January, after we went online, we had to redesign 25 workshops. They are approximately 3 different levels of tutors, and these workshops are taking place concurrently. So this manual had to work for students who were going to log on at the same time to hear welcome from us, and then going to a conference kind of like this, where they would be going to a level 1 strand, a level 2 strand for intermediate tutors who had some experience, and then a level 3 strand for master tutors. We haven't implemented the level 3 master tutor training because what we did was we redesigned all of our workshops, and it was quite an extensive process. So we're still tweaking our level 3 workshop. But if we can look at the next slide, we have a model of how we have designed this training for tutors. And what I'll do is I'll place in the chat so that you can follow me a link to one of the Google Docs. And this Google Doc is a hybrid. Generally, we would, and Dr. Parkinson, if you don't mind going to the chat as well and sharing that. When we created this document, we made this is a hybrid just to show you how we decided to help our staff, our full-time and part-time staff will help us do our training, figure out how to create an interactive tutoring space online, and then what guides we provide students so that they have just enough of a sense of what's going on, but that they still have the opportunity to experience novelty as we go through the training. Would you prefer that I share?
Yes.
Okay, hold on one second, everybody. Let's go again. So as I said, this is our let's just go here. And if we look here, if you can see my screen, this considers several possibilities that the people who will be training with us are very experienced at working with technology and that they might not be so experienced. So we used a process called backwards design, which was outlined in a book called Understanding by Design. And the idea there is that if you're designing a course, you think about what are the outcomes of that course? What do you want your students to be able to know and do? And then you work on figuring out the activities and exercises that will help you accomplish those goals. And we consider our tutor training experience to be kind of like a course. And so we did the same thing as a staff. We determined objectives about what we wanted the tutors to be able to do. So this would be an introductory level 1 workshop where we want them to become familiar with thinking about how they structure a session, and then what are the practices that they can use during each part of their tutoring sessions. So we developed a list of materials that they would use if they were facilitating face-to-face. And then we also developed a list of materials that they might need if they were facilitating the workshop online. And we also identified skills that they would need for online delivery. So we wanted them to know if you're going to be working online, what are some of the things that you need to have ready that will make your facilitation easier. We outlined what the instructor of the workshops would say to the tutors so that we knew that if anybody was delivering this workshop, tutors would have a consistent experience. And then we showed them how we would modify some of the exercises if the workshop had to be delivered online. And we gave them different options for doing exercises in a manner that was interactive. One of the things that we typically do, for example, is that we ask tutors to reflect on what are you doing if you are facilitating a session? What are you doing the first few minutes? What are you doing at the end? And we ask them then to compare their answers to the 12-step tutor cycle, which is the structure that we use to organize our tutoring. And I apologize if you hear the noise outside. And then usually we give them strips of paper that are cut out and they have to put in order so that they think about how to organize themselves. We can't really do that when we are online. So we use an exercise called Flippity, which allows them, if you can, give me a second, I will share the link to that with you in the chat so that you can see it and you can try it if you take a few minutes now. Once you click on this, I've just put it for everybody in the chat, you can take a look at the pieces and you can move them around the same way that they would have moved the pieces around if they were on campus and they had paper to manipulate the pieces. So this is what an instructor would receive. It's very detailed, but then a tutor would receive actually the last page that I showed you, which is just a very brief explanation of what's the objective for the workshop that they're about to experience, any questions that we want them to have, and then a link to any exercises that are important for them to have. So I'll return to our PowerPoint so that I can continue. Actually, Ainsley, do you mind sharing the PowerPoint?
Let me do that.
And we left off at slide number 16. And I'll talk while he brings up the PowerPoint. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that as we showed earlier in our academic coaching video, one of the things that we realized is that students felt that they really needed help with transitioning to the online environment. So our academic coaching has been the place where we have really figured out how to address those needs. So we created marketing at the beginning that helps students think about what are the benefits of online learning and how can you meet with an academic coach to help you take advantage of those benefits? How can they introduce you to campus resources that support your learning? Because most students are learning, well, they can be learning synchronously or asynchronously. If we can look at the next slide, we found that students that were learning asynchronously found that they really needed more help managing their time and figuring out how to structure it. So our academic coaching coordinator used a resource that she developed previously, but that has come into greater play at this time, which is on our website, we place a link to an interactive time management chart. And this chart allows students to download an Excel spreadsheet and they can put in how much time are they going to classes, how much time are they spending studying, and then it generates a graph, a figure of how they're using their time so that they can see if they can allocate their time differently. And additionally, on our website as well, we worked with our web team to have these resources placed online. If we can go to the next slide, an additional resource that we created is something that a lot of campuses use that's called Semester on a Page. And we use this so the students can download a fillable PDF and they can put in their important dates, and kind of like the backwards design process, they think about what are the end assignments that they have for a course and what are the ways that they can work backwards to make sure that they meet those assignments. And so there are many benefits that we have found to working online. I think, though, that if we consider what we've learned in the last year, one of the key things that we found is that we needed to reach students in multiple ways. So even though the structure of having a virtual center worked well, we worked with our IT department and piloted having a chatbot on our program's webpage. It mines the page for information about our services, but at certain times, we've agreed to be on to answer questions live. And honestly, we rely more on the virtual center than the chatbot because there's always someone staffing the virtual center, and sometimes they get so busy that we haven't had time to go to the chatbot. But both services have made it possible for us to be really accessible to students. And the last thing that I'd like to say is that we've also, in doing this, encountered some challenges, and that's that it does not allow us to have as much interactions with each other as we do when we have on campus. Even though we log on each day to this virtual center and tutors drop in and out throughout the day, we don't have time for those casual conversations that really help build community. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be trying to figure out in the next year, how to address. Overall, though, we've also implemented a system where our students can give us feedback about how we're doing right now. And after every writing session, for example, they receive a 1-question survey that has shown us that overall, they seem to be happy with our services. And in the next week, we're going to use our campus-based survey system, Lime Survey, to send out a survey to students that receive different services, not just writing tutoring, and to faculty to gain greater feedback about what are some of the things that we are doing well and that we could continue to do better. And I hope that this has been helpful to you. We are happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes. Any questions or comments for the presenters?
This might have been one of those presentations that is more interesting to you if you run a learning center, not, but we hope that there are ideas that you can use for your classes, or if you're working in other kinds of academic support services.
Thank you for both for the presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to let us be here.
Thank you so much.